Hi guys, welcome back to another video. Today I'm going to be talking to you about 2 easy ways that you can use your existing clothing to make new sewing patterns. So this is something I've spoke about before, it's something that I'm passionate about, and it's something I've even done a video on before, so I'll leave a link in the description to that video so you can check that out too. So before we get started, I wanted to ask if you could like this video if you enjoy it, subscribe to my channel and turn on the notification bell so you can keep up to date with all my latest videos. So without further ado, let's get into it. So first of all, the greatest benefits of using your existing clothing to make sewing patterns is that you can use something that already fits you, you already like, you already know fits with clothes that are already in your wardrobe, and kind of you can make it your own. You can alter something if there's something about that pattern you don't particularly like but you love the rest of it, and so on. So there's a lot of benefits to using your existing clothing to make new patterns. So like I said, there's 2 main methods to doing this. One is using the clothing as it is. So I've got this little jumpsuit here that was my niece's and I'm going to use this as a demonstration. The first method is to use it as it is, and the second is to take the pieces apart and trace them that way. So the first method is using the garment as it is. So my garment is a little dungaree type outfit, and it's got the poppers on the legs. So the first way is to use it as it is. So I would make sure your garment is ironed, make sure all creases are out of it, and if you have any garments that have got ruffles, pleats, gathers, any kind of tucks or even darts, this method is not going to work for that kind of garment. These are better garments. This is a better method for garments that are very simple, straightforward. There's no real major structure to the fabric and there's nothing kind of folded and pinned anywhere or anything like that. Because you need to be able to just use the fabric as it is, the garment as it is, laid down flat on a piece of paper. So once you've ironed your garment, either pin or clip your seams in a row. So for me, I've got a seam running from one edge to the other. So this is the leg, this is the armpit. So I've got this seam here. So take that seam and pin it together or clip it, and then you can take that and place it onto your paper flat. Once it's on your paper, weigh it down with pattern weights. Once it's weighed down, you can then draw around it with a pen or pencil. So make sure that you're only taking the seam edges. So this is almost like drawing around a jigsaw piece, because then that piece is then going to fit to another piece and then to another piece and then eventually create the garment itself. So make sure that you are following the seam edges and not the garment as a whole. With this method, you also will need to make sure that you add seam allowance, whether it's onto the paper pattern or onto the fabric, just because it won't be included from the pieces as you see them now. So once you've done one piece, repeat for the next until all your pieces are out on your paper, ready to cut out. Make sure each one is labelled with what it is, i.e. sleeve, front bodice and strap, leg, everything like that. Make sure that you change the legs from the front to the back when it comes to trousers, because the back legs and the front are very different, so make sure you check that out. And make sure you note the size of the garment. So this is a 2 to 3 year old, so I will be putting that on. You can also include measurements if you like, but you can just always measure the pattern later on if you're confused or you need a little bit more accuracy. So the major benefits of doing it this way is that it's quicker, it's a little bit easier because you just kind of cut in some corners and you're kind of getting things done a little bit faster, and it can be a lot, but it's just generally quicker to do. The major drawbacks, unfortunately, are the fact that it can be inaccurate because you haven't taken the seams apart, you've not taken the garment apart to really get the grips of the full garment, and you can also miss things like interfacing or extra fastenings that might be hidden that you don't quite know about, that you might need to know about for another reconstruction later on. So method 2 is using the garment but taking the seams apart. So we'd completely deconstruct the garment for every single piece that's a part of it. You would separate, lay out, iron with your iron and then lay out onto the fabric to transfer the pieces. Again, once you've got the pieces separate, make sure you've not trimmed anything like your seam allowances. So for example, you can see here that there's an edging, and then here you will see a seam. So that's the inside seam, and again you can see that that's interfacing. So make sure you don't chop a seam, but you're actually undoing it. That way that you can make sure you're getting the seam allowance added on to the pattern pieces straight away. That will also help you make sure that everything stays accurate and that you're getting every single detail out of the pattern that you need. But once you've got them all separated, they're ironed and flat and laid out on your paper, then you can weigh them down with your pattern weights, and then you can draw around them. Then you can use any kind of pen or pencil to mark on any like notches or anything like that that you think you're going to need for when you come to reconstruct the pattern later on. So again, make sure you know what each piece is, any kind of fastenings that are used on this, and you know, any other kind of things that you think you're going to need for when you come to making it again. What's difficult about this method is that once you've taken apart, you don't really know how it goes back together, or you might forget. So make sure you have physical images of the, you know, on your phone or something, of the garment before you took it apart. A sketch, if you don't have a camera phone, make a sketch of the garment, and also have a notepad and pen to your side, so when you are taking things apart you can write down the method of where you think things should go, how things should join, and the number of fastenings that are included in this, along with things like interfacing and etc. So the major benefits of doing it this way is that you can make sure that you are being as accurate as possible. You can also use any kind of garment to do this. So even if you've got something that's got gathers, ruffles, pleats, darts, anything like that, zips, you can use any kind of garment in this method because you are completely deconstructing it. Then you can, you know, transfer it to paper. Darts, if you decide that you're doing something with darts and you don't want to don't cut the fabric out, you can use a tracing wheel and just kind of mark on any kind of things like that to help you then draw it in later once you've finished. So the major drawbacks of doing this method is that you can no longer wear the garment. You can if you want to put it back together, but it seems a bit of a waste of time. It also means that it's a lot longer to take the garment apart and then create the pattern, whereas the first method is literally just taking the pattern from the garment as it is. So make sure you think about that when you get started, that it will take you maybe 2 to 3 times longer than method 1. So before we finish, I wanted to run through a few things that you'll need to remember when you are doing either of these processes, just so then when you get started and you're so excited that you don't forget something important. So make sure you always remember to add your seam allowance. Make sure it's added, either method you're doing, make sure you've got your seam allowance added, and write on your pattern how much that seam allowance is. So then when you come to sew your garment together, you can make sure you've got the correct seam allowance sewing forward. Make sure that you've written on each piece what it is and what it joins to. If you get a little bit confused, make sure you do that. Make sure you write on if it needs to be cut on the fold, if it's got a dart, if it gathers, anything like that that you need to know, make sure it's on the pattern. Make sure you've got your pen and paper to kind of write down your own instructions ready for constructing the garment again. And make sure you've got a picture or some sort of diagram so then you can see how it originally was together and how it can go back together. I hope you found this video really helpful, and I hope it's got you excited about maybe revitalising some things in your wardrobe, make new things. If you've enjoyed this video, make sure you like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.